After I got married, I worked hard for the rest of the time. I worked like hell every day. And so, I accumulate a good amount of money, completely buy a house, and my wife and I have the accumulated money, and we decide to go on vacation. I couldn't even think that this trip would be a nightmare for me. And my wife would turn out to be a real traitor. My name is Jason, and this is my story. Enjoy watching it.
Rachel is my wife. She's 28 years old, and we've been together for 3 years now. I've always been proud of my wife. She's intelligent, quick-witted, takes care of herself, and hits the gym and beauty salons every week, unlike me. I can't say I looked terribly bad. My only flaw was the belly I had grown over the past couple of years. I loved coming home in the evening to be greeted by my wife in a short robe. We would sit down for dinner, watch a movie, with me having a beer and her having wine. After the movie, we could indulge in pleasures in the bedroom. Over the 3 years, I managed to completely pay off the house credit, and it became fully ours, just ours and no one else's. I also got a promotion at work, which means more money for our family. Overall, we lived in harmony. The only thing that caused disagreements and heated arguments was the question of having children. I believe we're ready for a baby, especially since I'm already 30. On the contrary, Rachel thinks we should first live for ourselves, see the world, and accumulate capital. I always tell her, "Darling, what you're saying means we'll have kids no earlier than 40, and by then, it might not work out. I really want a child, and the sooner, the better. Don't you remember how we discussed before the wedding that as soon as we pay off the house credit, we'll start a family? It's been 2 years since we paid off the credit and still no child." Rachel replies, "Dear, I understand, but let's wait a little longer. We've lived our whole lives in this city. I want to see the world, at least one country, and then we can think about having a baby. What do you think about that idea?" "So, you're suggesting that we go on a trip, and after that, we can immediately have a baby?" I ask. "Yes," she says. "Good idea, dear. We really need to go somewhere and relax," I conclude. Rachel didn't work anywhere because I prohibited her. I saw no point in her working since my salary covered our living expenses, and we saved 35% of it every month. So, we had enough money to provide Rachel with beauty salons, the gym, massages, and our joint travels. The next day, after the conversation, Rachel welcomed me home from work with excitement. She was jumping around the house, shouting, "Hooray, hooray, hooray! I've chosen where we can go for a vacation, look!" She handed me the phone, and I started scrolling through the photos. It was a 5-star resort on the Seychelles Islands. I fell in love with the place instantly, and I already wanted to be there. After that, we spent the whole evening making a list of what we needed, bought plane tickets, and were set to fly exactly 1 week later, spending 14 days on vacation. I arranged with work to take leave and started wrapping up all my tasks. Rachel eagerly anticipated the trip, as did I. The week felt incredibly long, but finally, the day X arrived, and we were exiting the plane, breathing in the fresh air. We booked a luxurious room with kitchenette, with a total area of 102 mètres. It had a panoramic view of the Indian Ocean, and it was truly magical. I dedicated my entire life to education and then work, wanting to create a complete family. But I'm ecstatic that Rachel pushed me for this trip because we found ourselves in a completely different world where I forgot about my daily responsibilities, and the main task was simply to enjoy the moment. That same day, we decided to head straight to the sandy beach, sunbathe, and swim in the ocean. Rachel wore her new bikini, covering only the intimate areas. She looked stunning, her delicate skin was flawless, and her body was very alluring. At that moment, I wanted to make love to her everywhere, in the hotel, in the restroom, on the beach. I wanted this woman wherever possible. We started at the bar around 6 in the evening, grabbed alcoholic cocktails, and headed to the beach. It wasn't the surfing season, so the ocean was crystal calm and clear. We lay on the sunbeds and started sunbathing. I felt a bit awkward at some point. Compared to my wife, I looked terrible with extra weight and not a gram of muscle. But it's understandable. I devote all my time to work so that my lovely wife can relax and not deny herself anything. We spent an hour on the beach and went for dinner. There was a large buffet, and we could try whatever we wanted. I loaded up on food, while Rachel took a salad and a fruit plate. As we sat down, a young couple approached us, wanting to introduce themselves, and we invited them to join our table. Kevin and Tiffany weren't married. They were both 22 and looked great. Kevin looked more muscular than me. You could tell he dedicated a lot of time to himself. Tiffany was also well-groomed and beautiful, but I wasn't interested. During the conversation, we found out that they were on the same plane as us, but they were flying business class. Kevin worked for a large IT company, and Tiffany didn't work, just like Rachel. They'd been together for 5 months and had already visited 3 different countries. As they shared all this, I was nearly choked. I was shocked that a young guy without an education could afford such resorts so frequently. I felt envy. Towards the end of the conversation, Kevin and Rachel were talking, while Tiffany and I stayed silent. They touched on various topics, and I was bothered by this overly friendly atmosphere. So, I decided to put an end to it, especially since everyone had already eaten. I stood up and said, "Thanks, guys. It was nice spending time with you, but Rachel and I need to go now." Kevin said, "Too bad, but maybe we can meet tomorrow morning and spend the day together. It's better in good company." Before I could say anything, Rachel added, "That's a great idea. We're in, Jason and I." Kevin said, "Great, then have a good night and see you tomorrow." "See you tomorrow," I said through clenched teeth. I didn't like this at all. Why did my wife make this decision? This is our vacation, for the 2 of us. New acquaintances are cool, but not so intrusive. It upset me, but I didn't say anything to Rachel about it. I think she'll forget about it the next morning, and we'll peacefully spend the day together. We had a wonderful evening with Rachel. We blushed a bit from the sun, but it didn't stop us from getting intimate. I slept like a baby, and upon waking up in the morning, I heard voices in the living room. Stepping out in just my underwear, I saw Rachel and Kevin with Tiffany. Before I could say anything, Kevin cheerfully greeted me. "Jason, buddy, good morning. Why are you sleeping so long? We have a packed day ahead, starting with morning spa treatments, then sauna and hammam. After lunch, we'll go on a tour, and in the evening, we'll swim in the Indian Ocean and head to a disco where there's a concert tonight. So, get ready, we're all set." I didn't quite understand, and I just said, "Hello, I'll get ready in a moment." I returned to the room, started getting dressed, and then it hit me. Why is this strange couple in our room? It was our plan for the day with Rachel. Why should we be with someone else? Do we lack each other's company? I realized I needed to talk to Rachel, and I would do it at the first opportunity. I got ready in 10 minutes, and we left the room. Walking down the corridor, Tiffany said she forgot something in the room and needed to quickly go back. Kevin interrupted her, saying he would go himself, and off he went. Rachel mentioned she needed the restroom, and Kevin offered her to use it in their room. Before I could comprehend anything, the 2 of them vanished, leaving Tiffany and me in the corridor. Seizing the moment, I decided to ask her, "Tiffany, is your boyfriend always like this?" She asked, "Like what?" I said, "Well, so friendly. And does it not bother you that they went together to your room?" She replied, "He likes socializing, and we've been in a relationship for a long time. I trust him, so what's there to be afraid of? Rachel just wanted to use the restroom, and our room is closer than yours." Reluctantly, I agreed with her, but I still didn't like it. They were gone for 7 minutes. I timed it from when they left. Kevin handed his girlfriend a bag, and Rachel returned a bit excited, or maybe it was just my imagination. Throughout the day, I couldn't find a quiet moment to talk to Rachel because we were always with Kevin and Tiffany. I can't say we were bored, it was even fun, but I knew I would be much happier spending these days with my wife. Evening came, and we all headed to the beach. Rachel had her 4th cocktail, Tiffany her 3rd, and Kevin preferred a bottle of expensive whiskey, offering me some. but I declined. I was already exhausted and just wanted to lie on the beach and sunbathe. Rachel and Tiffany found common ground, sitting together on the sand and chatting about something. This was the first time I saw them communicate. Meanwhile, Kevin was on the shore, touching the water. "Jason, come here," he shouted, and I approached. We sat on the beach, and a conversation ensued. "Jason, listen, I've been socializing and meeting people for a while, but you guys are the first company I genuinely like. I really enjoy spending time with you, and Tiffany does too. You're cool guys. I just want to say, if you ever need any help, feel free to ask me," Kevin told me. "Thanks, Kevin. I'll keep that in mind," was all I replied. At that moment, all I wanted was to take him and throw him on the sand and do what was forbidden. This brat was ruining my vacation and even offering me his help if needed. I felt hypocrisy from him. I understood that Kevin was only interested in my wife. Throughout the day, I noticed everything. He even touched her buttocks a couple of times, and I could understand that because Tiffany didn't look as slim, elegant, and desirable, whereas I always felt a sexual aura from my wife. I didn't say anything to his face. I was captivated by the thrill of how far this could go. The evening on the beach passed uneventfully. I didn't even go into the water. Meanwhile, my wife, Kevin, and Tiffany splashed around. While Rachel was swimming, a notification from her mom came to her phone. I didn't read it, but decided to unlock her phone out of curiosity to check her contacts. In the contacts, I found her conversation with Kevin. Damn it, they exchanged numbers, I thought to myself, and I didn't even notice. They had a small dialogue where they wished each other good night yesterday and exchanged messages to meet up in the morning. There was nothing compromising in their conversation, just ordinary dialogue. But instead of my wife, Kevin could have taken my contact to stay in touch, and for that alone, I could have punched him, because why is he talking to my wife, and I don't know about it? The useful thing I learned from their conversation was their room number. They had a presidential suite, 270 Maromer. We never even thought about that. I was shocked. I put her phone aside, and when they all returned from the water, I said that I wasn't feeling well and wouldn't go to the disco. But the only thing I heard from my wife was, "Okay, you can go to our room and rest. We really had a busy day today. I'll be back late so you don't have to wait for me." I was speechless. I saw Tiffany's shocked reaction too. She said, "Rachel, maybe you should spend time with your husband. We can go to the disco any other day." Kevin added, "Tiffany, what nonsense is this? We've been waiting for this event the whole day and you suggest Rachel skip it?" A dispute erupted, during which Tiffany slapped Kevin and called him a jerk, then left for the room. Kevin gathered his things and followed Tiffany, apologizing to us. Rachel and I were left alone on the beach. I wanted to leave with her, so I took her hand to hug and kiss her, but she pulled away and started hysterically saying, "It's all because of you. Can't you see? It's all your fault. You can't behave properly. Do we have so many friends? You never do what I want. Even on the disco night, when we were all swimming and having fun, you were lying on the sunbed as if you were unwell. I know you're lying. You're just annoyed with Kevin. Admit it, that's the truth. You don't understand. We came on this vacation together. We should be together, not with someone else. Okay, we can have lunch or dinner with them, go to the pools and so on, but we should spend most of the time together. You pay too much attention to Kevin. Why?" I held back as much as I could. I didn't want to say everything that was boiling inside me. But then Rachel said, "Kevin? What about Kevin? He's our friend. Or are you jealous of him, huh? Or do you think I'll cheat on you with him? What's wrong with him? Answer, why are you ruining my vacation?" And then I couldn't hold back. Without saying a word, I took her hand and led her to the room. She tried to break free. I just said loudly, "Shut up," and said it again, and on the third time she walked quietly. This behavior from my wife was new. I'm not a tyrant. I never oppressed or denied her anything. But what she demanded was too much. She wanted me to stay in the room, and she would dance in the club with strangers. Absurd. I took her to the room. She lay down on the bed and started crying. After 30 minutes, I wanted to approach her and calm her down, suggesting going to the terrace jacuzzi, which was 2 minutes away from our room. But when I entered the bedroom, I saw her sitting on the phone. When I approached, she put it aside and turned away from me in silence. "Rachel, dear, we are not little children. I'm sorry for exploding on you like that. Let's go to the jacuzzi, relax together." After a couple of seconds, she said, "Go to your jacuzzi, and I'll stay in the room. I need to collect myself. We'll talk later." I tried again, but it was useless. She lay there and ignored me. It was 8 in the evening, and I went to prepare for the jacuzzi, letting her know I would wait for her there. Before leaving, she asked me, "How long should I wait for you?" I replied, "Somewhere around an hour. You'll join me." "Okay, I'll think about it," she replied. I left her in the room and went to the jacuzzi. It was magnificent. My whole body was massaged, and I felt like I was in space. It was already dark, and I lay there enjoying the clean air and the starry sky. About 10 minutes later, it struck me. I began to analyze the situation in my head. I understood that Rachel and Kevin had some feelings for each other. They spent more time together than with Tiffany and me throughout the day. Tiffany didn't notice this connection at first, but in the evening, when they had a quarrel, she probably realized something was wrong. Then I remembered their correspondence. Rachel had Kevin's contact, and a terrible thought crossed my mind. What if, while I'm not in the room, Rachel wrote to Kevin, and now he's in my room with my wife? Rachel asked me how long I would be in the jacuzzi for a reason. I had to catch them red-handed. I went back to the door, and a strange feeling came over me, as if I had forgotten something. I didn't have the keycard in my bag, even though I distinctly remember putting it there. When Rachel came out to ask when I would return, she also handed me my bag, apparently pulling out the card at that moment. It was bad. In that moment, I realized I could approach the administrator and ask for an additional card. The main thing was that she remembered me. To my luck, I got the card, and I promised to return it the same day. I returned to the door, and my body seemed to stop obeying me. Activating the door quickly, I entered. The first thing I heard was a female moan, which abruptly stopped when I walked in. I immediately went to the bedroom. I saw this scene. My wife was sitting on Kevin, and the room was very stuffy. All her lingerie and bathrobe were scattered. Panties hung on the picture, the bathrobe was on the floor, and the bra was on the chair. The first thing Rachel said was, "Sweetheart, this is not what you think. Let's talk." A mix of emotions surged within me. I was humiliated, and now I had to have a conversation. Moreover, I stood there for about 10 seconds, and they didn't separate from each other. Unable to bear it, I rushed straight at them. I pushed Rachel off the bed and leaped onto Kevin. He managed to hit me a couple of times first. I just wanted to grab him, so unable to hold back, I stunned him. It was as if he had fallen into a deep sleep. Rachel sat on the floor, afraid to move. I cast a disdainful look at her and said, "Darling, you don't want trouble, do you? Come to bed with me." What do you want to do?" she asked. She obediently listened to me, and strangely, I liked it. She lay on the bed next to Kevin, and I got up, heading to the drawer. At that moment, Rachel asked me, "What did you do to him? Is he alive?" I didn't answer her. He was, of course, alive. Instead, I continued rummaging through the drawer. "Dear, I understand everything. I acted very foolishly. Forgive me. Let's talk," she said. But I paid no attention. I found handcuffs, which Rachel and I had used occasionally during intimate moments. I handcuffed one hand of Rachel and attached it to Kevin's hand. I took out a fishing net and fashioned it into something like a rope. First, I tied up Rachel, securing her to the bed completely, then Kevin. Rachel didn't resist. She breathed deeply and occasionally uttered phrases about how much she loved me. When I finished, standing in front of them, I took my phone, turned on the camera, and Rachel began, "Why? What for? Don't you remember our goal, the goal we are working towards, our child together? Stop hurting me." "No more us," I said, and took a couple of shots of them lying together, bound and naked. Signing this photo as cheaters caught red-handed, I sent it to friends, acquaintances, and parents. I deliberately removed the ring from my finger and threw it out of the open window. Throughout this time, Rachel lay there, pleading not to do anything wrong, but it was already too late. "I'll put you in prison, Jason, hear me? For this, you'll pay a huge sum of money, and you'll end up with nothing," she said. At that very moment, someone knocked on the door. "They've come for you," Rachel said. I found Kevin's dirty briefs, crumpled them up, and made Rachel silent using them, saying, "You like getting into other people's pants." Then I left the room, closing it tightly. I opened the door, and there stood Tiffany. She immediately said, "Oh, Jason, hi. Sorry I'm so late, but have you seen Kevin? He said he'd go get ice cream for us, but he's been gone for about 50 minutes. I thought to myself, wow, so much time has passed. "Tiffany, I know where your boyfriend is, but you won't like it. You need to see this," I said, and she silently followed me. I opened the door, and she saw her boyfriend lying with my wife. Rachel was already red from trying to spit out Kevin's underwear from her mouth, but it was useless. I explained to Tiffany that it wasn't me who set this up. I went to the jacuzzi, waited for my wife, got suspicious, returned to the room, and saw these two in bed. Tiffany couldn't stand it and started hitting Kevin with her hands. I quickly pulled her away, and at that moment, he woke up, seeing me holding his girlfriend from behind. He probably thought I was making advances, but when he tried to stand up abruptly, he ended up back in bed just as quickly. They were both tied up and couldn't do anything. "You understand that it's over for you. I'll—" Before he could finish, I silenced Kevin with my wife's dirty laundry. Now they both lay in bed, unable to do anything. Tiffany watched all of this and cried. I closed the window and turned on the air conditioner, setting it to the highest heat. I gathered all my things from the bedroom. Unnoticeably, I took my wife's passport and all her documents. I left her without any identification. I also took her phone and Kevin's. I removed their SIM cards, smashed them on the floor, put them in a bag, and Tiffany and I went to their room. While Tiffany packed her things, I also took all of Kevin's documents and put them in a separate bag with Rachel's phones and documents. I also took my wife's and Kevin's credit cards. In Kevin's suitcase, there was about $450,000 in cash. This turkey carries cash with him. What a clown, I thought to myself, and decided to take all that money. Leaving the hotel, I warned the administrator that there were scammers in the room, living here illegally, and asked to check the room exactly in 2 hours, handing over the key card. Tiffany and I went to the airport, getting rid of all the documents and phones beforehand. We felt like we were in a movie, some action thriller. Arriving at the airport, we took the first flight with 2 layovers, eventually reaching our hometown. We spent 3 days there, during which I put the house up for sale, filed for divorce, and Tiffany and I went to California. During this time, neither Kevin nor Rachel contacted me. Only her friends and parents started threatening me. But I didn't care. They asked where Rachel was, and I said I had no idea. They thought I had done something bad to her since she wasn't in touch, but I hadn't done anything terrible. I believe my payback was fair. Tiffany and I live together in California. I can't say we have love and all that, but I think it might develop into something. I was transferred to California from my job, which I was delighted about. I divorced Rachel, and we sold our house, splitting it in half. Rachel lost most of her friends, and even her parents started treating her differently, but that's what she deserved. In general, I left everything behind, live and work for myself, and also help Tiffany. I hope that in the near future we will become a complete family.